Hello everybody, welcome back to Book Mining. Today I'm doing another Agatha Christie review. So I'm kind of changing settings, okay, as you can see. Like last video I was somewhere else and then somewhere else. So I think changing settings is in some way motivating me to make more videos. So that's a win-win for both of us because you get to see more videos and I get to post more, okay. So yeah, today new setting and a new book. Today I'm doing again Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot's first ever case, that is the mystery affair at Styles. Now, this is the first book, as I've already mentioned, in the Hercule Poirot detective series by Agatha Christie, and the first book. And let's just say right off the bat that first book I did not have too many expectations, but then this one is very nice one, being a first one, of course. Now, let's just get right into this book and what it's actually about in the most non, you know, what do you call it? Sneak peek into the book. What's that word called? I forgot. Teaser kind of way, right? Correct. Now let's get right into this one. So I think this book is a pretty decent book. Now the word I'm using over here is decent, and I don't think this is a superb book. Just like the murder in the Orient Express, like Sleeping Murder, which I did the last one. But this is a good and decent book to read, and you don't really, fret and regret reading this book after you've done it, because the time that it's taken to read, I think it is to some extent really worth reading it. In that sense, some extent is basically like 3/4 of your time is wisely utilized. 1/4, you know, it needs to be better. But then, of course, this is the first book, so I have, of course, made this review in view that this was the first one that she wrote. Okay, so this book is basically set in the countryside where most of Agatha Christie's classic murders are set. In a big country home, a big family, and there's Captain Hastings, of course, who's the narrator over here, and Captain Hastings is actually, retired from the First World War, because it's set in the background of the First World War, I can see, and he's retired and he's invited to stay at Styles Court, which is a friend of, property of the mother of his friend, and his name is John Cavendish. And there's this not big, rather big family, but a very decent sort of family, and lots of suspects and everybody. So Styles is basically like a very, not a very open environment. It's pretty concise, and I really like that fact that the setting should be really concise, so that you're able to relate and you just don't get lost, okay, into where they are going. Because like the shorter, like, what do you call it, the more smaller the setting, the lesser the characters, and so the plot gets more better, because with more characters, inculcating more characters into your mystery just gets pretty tough. So when this is the perfect setting, and there's like decent amount of characters in this one, not too much, not too less. And then there's John Cavendish's mother, who's actually murdered, and she's found poisoned. And in the story, it's discovered that, or maybe let's just say that she's actually poisoned by this thing called, I guess, cyanide. No, it's some kind of sleeping pill. Let me just guess this one actually. Yeah, it's strychnine. Yeah, it's strychnine. She's poisoned with it, okay, and suspicion falls on her, John's stepfather and her second husband, which is Mr. Inglethorpe. And then Hercule Poirot is, of course, invited to investigate this kind of crime. And these people are very like high country class over here, as you can see. So there's a lot of characters in these stories, and I think there's just the right number of twists as well, okay. Now this is not making it to the super category over here, is because I think the book is just okay to read. I think the way things are going through, I think at some point it does now get boring, but then it's not boring, it's neither interesting. So that kind of stretch in the book, which is existing after like the half of the book is finished, is kind of boring to read. And I think that some other brainstorming idea could have been a better execution of what's actually happening through that part of the story. But I think it kind of gets like partially boring in some extent, and then I think the solution is not very nice, I'd say. It's the first book, of course, I consider that fact, and I am really impressed. Let me just bring that to you for the first book from Agatha. I think this is definitely on her top 15 or 20 for me, okay? But let's say the solution is just not very nice, and I was actually disappointed with the solution because it is not at all, enjoyable. Like, you really don't get that wow factor when you actually read the solution, and so some part of you says that it wasn't very rewarding reading all of these pages. And this book, I think, is how much? It's about 250, I guess. Yeah, it's about 220. It's not very long, but then at the same time, I think the solution would have been better worked out. Okay, so the way she was actually creating all that, climax and suspicion, it was indirectly, like kind of like, indicating to a very beautiful and nicely set solution, because like lots of things were happening and things were starting to get connected, so we're like, oh my god, something is going to be very interesting to be the solution. Okay, but then the solution, I think, was really not good, and at the same time, I think a bit of laziness. Okay, this is not good. Okay, no, the solution could have been better, of course, and I think this was a very get rid of solution I call it, because not too much effort went into it, I guess. The solution, I don't know, I just don't like it. Okay, so that's the point. Okay, so that is why this is not on my favorites. It's a good book, not an awesome one. So basically, if you do ABC, it's somewhere near at B or between A and B. Definitely not A tier book, this one, but it's very good, and I also recommend getting this one because like you need to see how good Agatha Christie is just on her first from Poirot. And yeah, it was not, it was fun reading. Okay, but then of course it was not as much as fun. So I'm kind of using that comparison reading. Okay. So yeah, very nice, lots of revelations like every single Christie over here, and things start to get like bumped off, and there's lots of things that you are actually quite impressed with in this book as well. Step aside of those negative ones, there's lots of positives in this book as well, and I definitely recommend reading this one. Yeah, so you should read this. Mysterious Affair at Styles, because I think that it's a lot of, it's that cozy murder, okay, and I really like cozy murders from Agatha Christie. A perfect one, actually. This is like the typical Agatha Christie, I'd say, because it's the first one, of course. So yeah, there we come to an end of today's video. I hope you liked this one, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. I'm sitting at 23, I say, for quite a long time. And also like this one and share it to your friends who are also Agatha Christie fans. See you in the next one. Goodbye.